Our nights are getting brighter, and Earth is paying the price. On a clear night in 1994, an earthquake rumbled beneath Los Angeles and caused a citywide power outage just before dawn. Startled awake, that weird object turned out to be the band of our home galaxy, which had long been obscured from view by the city's lights. Arguably, the light bulb is the most transformative invention humans have introduced to this planet. By flicking a switch, but it's that they have stolen the night. The excess light, the disappearance of the night sky, is tied up in our ever more fast-paced world, says Amanda Gormley of the Tucson-based. We lose something as the consequences of light pollution tiptoe from the shadows, and are agitating for solutions. And in some areas, though it may not be as immediately toxic as a chemical spill, light pollution is now among the most chronic environmental perturbations on Earth. In 2016, you would think that environmental organizations would be all over light pollution, because it's just such a complete waste, says of the German Research Center for Biosciences. It's a place where for indoor lights, the switch to new kinds of bulbs has often been about energy savings, as homeowners moved from conventional incandescent bulbs to cheaper, brighter alternatives such as compact fluorescents. Now, lighting, but while they come with hidden costs, people tend to Unfortunately, measuring the actual impact of LEDs from orbit has been tricky, because most Earth-observing satellites. In Kaiba's 20, he and others say that dimmer, warmer, and shielded LEDs could be hugely beneficial for both dark skies and energy budgets. Done well, LEDs could save the planet, in the sense of reining in light pollution, says astronomer, also of International Dark Sky Association. Done carelessly, one autumn morning back in 1990, just after dawn, roamed Toronto's financial district, walking the streets between the city's tallest, brightest buildings. It was a fairly everywhere I looked, there were just bodies lying all over the sidewalks, he recalls. As in many cities, Toronto's nighttime lights are frequently lethal to birds. Blinded by glare, Misu, who co-founded the nonprofit FLAP, estimates that Toronto's buildings kill tens of thousands of birds a year. Sparrows, it's no wonder people don't know this is an issue, he says. By the time today, FLAP's volunteers still patrol those 6 square blocks of the financial district, scraping data from city sidewalks before the gulls and cleaners can get to them. They've found that, even far from the throngs of urban downtowns, our thirst for light is claiming lives. Researchers in Australia, studies the reproductive cycle of the Tamar wallaby. This small wallabies only require a few nights with as little as 3 minutes of decreased light to activate reproduction, says Robert, of Melbourne's La Trobe University. There are studies but Robert saw something different in the 2 wallaby populations she studied on Garden Island. One population, over 5 years of study, the bushland wallabies produced offspring right on cue, 6 weeks post-solstice. But the urban we expect to see the same effects in other seasonally breeding species that have their reproductive activity cued by change in light levels, Robert says. For millennia, the rhythmic shifting between day and night ruled our physiology, too, triggering biological cues that help us sleep at night, wake up in the morning, and stay healthy. Nighttime physiology depends on dark. It does not depend. The connection between light and biology starts with photons striking our retinas, triggering signals that reach a knot of neurons known as the suprachiasmatic nucleus. That knot is it was very important for humans beings not to get hungry in the middle of the night, because if you're foraging for food, you're gonna become food, Stevens says. Whether it's a computer screen, bright bathroom light, or intense street lights shining in our windows, indoor and outdoor electric lights interfere with those circadian rhythms by stunting the normal ebb and flow of melatonin. Obesity is one. The consequences are particularly profound in nighttime shift workers, such as truck drivers and flight attendants, who are case studies in messed up circadian biology. In 2000s, the psychological impact of losing the night sky also should not be underestimated. A psychologist at the University of California, Berkeley, says that the star-splashed canvas rotating overhead on clear nights elicits a sense of wonder and awe. In laboratory studies, participants who'd recently experienced that sensation scored higher on assessments of scientific reasoning and were kinder, more altruistic, and less materialistic. Philosophers have written about how a big beautiful sky makes you feel like you're part of something big, like it's sacred, like it's purposeful, he says. By contrast, if the battle against light pollution had a mascot, it would probably be a baby sea turtle. The or perhaps the sea turtle hatchlings as a guide to the sea. But high-rises, there are tens of thousands of hatchling disorientations every year, says David Godfrey, executive director of the Gainesville-based Light Pollution is, so, he and his colleagues with a little help from oil spill recovery funds and local turtle-friendly lighting ordinance have been at no cost to. The new lighting design follows that can protect not only turtles, but also humans and other wildlife. Some of these prints, one key step is keeping lights low to the ground. Instead of lighting, most importantly for light-sensitive animals, outdoor fixtures should use longer wavelength LEDs rather than bright white lights. Turtle hatchling, though the initial retrofit might swallow some dollars, cost savings in the long run often add up to energy bills that are 70% lower than before, Godfrey says. Along the Floridas, in front of every property that we've retrofitted, the disorientation rate has gone to zero, he says, noting that they're working with properties in other sea turtle nesting hotspots, such as Costa Rica. As long as the consequences of light pollution have become more visible, lighting regulations have started to evolve. Canada passed entire cities are even redoing their lights in an attempt to reclaim the night and decrease energy waste. Flagstaff, so far, hesitations about dimmer, sparser lighting, or decreased safety at night. In Chicago's west, for some cities, eliminating light pollution is also a way to increase tourism revenue while strengthening humanity's connection to the night sky. Consider the town. Since 2010, the city has hosted it in the fall that brings in thousands of people. But Jasper what caught our attention at first was how horrible all these new LED street lights looked. So glary. Throughout North America and Europe, dark sky parks are on the rise, and festivals like Jasper's are flourishing. People are beginning to. Christopher Kaiba, the scientist who studies light pollution on a global level, points to Van Gogh's as his image of an ideal nighttime scene. This is the dream of what you want to have: warm, uniform lighting. You can see lots of
raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Look in the